Now, European carriers on Monday reported disruptions and suspended flights across the African continent after Niger's junta closed its airspace on Sunday. The junta on Monday braced for a response from the West African regional bloc after ignoring its deadline to reinstate the country's ousted president or face the threat of military intervention. The disruption adds to a band of African airspace facing geopolitical disruptions, including Libya and Sudan, with some flights facing up to 1,000 kilometers. Joining us live for more is Executive Director of the West African Network for Peacebuilding, OneUP, Chukwuemeka Eze. Good morning to you, Mr. Emeka. Thank you so much for joining the program. So this reaction from Niger, I mean, with all my analysis and conversations, never came up as something that Niger could use in its defense. What's your reaction to this recent decision by the Nigerian authorities to block their airspace?
Well, I think they must have made the analysis and come with a position that once they do that, then a lot of other countries will also receive the kind of pain they are receiving following the Ecowas announcement of a no-fly zone in Niger. So I'm pretty sure that they are also trying to reciprocate and to ensure that such pain will also push ECOWAS to relax its own sanction on no-fly zone.
Right. But this clearly doesn't prevent ECOWAS from still carrying out its threat, does it?
Well, I think in the first place, I think ECOWAS may not have gotten it all right because the ultimatum, as all of us are against any form of unconstitutional change of government, especially coup d'etat, and especially that Niger is a signatory to the Ecowas Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. In fact, former President Tanja actually was the chair of the authority when that protocol was signed. So to that extent, nobody is encouraging that, but I think that Ecowas ultimatum should have been thought through, gathered allies, including the Peace and Security Council of the United Nations and other African countries through the African Union, and to make sure that there is no dissenting voice. So I'm pretty sure that the meeting coming up later this week will look at some of those pros and cons. But you cannot blame ECOWAS for being so stringent on any issue relating to coup d'etat. Otherwise, ECOWAS begins to lose its relevance, and then we are back to the same trench where we left, thinking that we are over and above a coup d'etat in West Africa.
Right. So, I mean, my question is that ECOWAS had earlier threatened to invade Niger, to come in with troops if Niger didn't return the country, or if the junta rather didn't return the country to constitutional governance system by a deadline that has already elapsed. And I'm asking if this closure of airspace by Niger is in any way to prevent ECOWAS from executing its threat, and if that will even succeed at all.
Well, I'm not a military officer, but when it comes to this kind of invasion, whether you close your airspace or not, it will still happen. Otherwise, then you're protected. So, but I don't think that at this moment that will be the option on the table. It could be the last option, but not the option on the table. I think there are a lot of things that ECOWAS as a community can come together and do and put pressure on the military junta. Nigeria, for example, is cutting off electricity. That's just one out of several other things that could be done. But I think that the most important thing now is to make sure that we speak with one voice as a community so that there is no dissenting voice. At the moment, there is a coalition of the willing, as it were, amongst the countries that are under military regime against the rest of West Africa. That's not a good sign. The second thing also is that there are some other African countries that seem to be aligning with Niger. That's not also a good sign. We were able to succeed in Gambia because there was no dissenting voice, and because whether it is at the level of the United Nations or African Union, everybody queued behind ECOWAS. On this particular instance, I think we need to tread carefully, but also making sure that we maintain a strong stance as far as ECOWAS is concerned. Otherwise, this will just be one of the several other coup d'etats we are going to see in the near future.
So we know that there's supposed to be a setting meeting again by ECOWAS leaders. We get to know what the conclusion of those meetings will be. But from where you sit as OneUP, and seeing that even what we're seeing in Niger was predicted by some analysts and security experts right here on this channel, on Newsfile, and seeing that it could have been prevented clearly because people saw it coming and they could tell the undercurrents and how they had to be dealt with. From where you sit as OneUP, how do we deal with this problem? And do you see any end in sight soon?
Well, that's why this particular issue is very complicated. It's also very complex, but also defines what we expect going forward. The strength of ECOWAS and how they are able to deal with this would determine what happens in the near future. I think that, first of all, is that the Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance is overdue for reforms, and the ECOWAS Commission is aware of this. They have already taken steps alongside willing civil society organizations to make those amendments. It's left for our authority to provide a political will to approve those amendments that is made so that ECOWAS can have more teeth to bite. At the moment, the Democracy and Good Governance Protocol does not provide ECOWAS with the teeth to bite when things are about to happen. We leave it for too long, and when it happens, we begin to react. And we are spending so much resources now to address the issue of Niger. That could have happened a long time ago if the protocol is reviewed. My opinion is that we need to now begin to develop indicators that we use to measure governance. I think that there is a lot of bad behavior that exists within the corridors of power now that we need to checkmate. Otherwise, when citizens get frustrated, when the military gets frustrated, when the entire country gets frustrated because of lack of good governance, we will still come back to this period. The final thing also is that we need to begin to look at countries where they have the same characteristics with Niger. Just like you said, it is not for lack of prediction that Niger could happen. And we're also saying that there are two other countries that are very likely because they present the same picture as Niger, as Mali, as Burkina Faso, and as Guinea. And therefore, we cannot afford to go back to the trenches when the military usurp power from civil rule and bastardize the democracy we have all enjoyed. No matter how bad democracy is, it is still adjudged as the best form of government.
Now, finally to you, a U.S. diplomat visited Niger to meet the coup leaders and try to get for their President Bazoum's release. We are told that hasn't had any conclusive she hasn't had any conclusive response yet, and it appears that the junta is really bent on carrying out this coup and establishing its dominance in that country. Let's look at the involvement of external government and bodies. When I say external, I mean beyond Africa and the sub-region, and how their intervention could possibly cause this to linger or probably help in ECOWAS efforts in getting democratic governance back to Niger.
The greatest challenge of ECOWAS now as a region is the geopolitics, the new friends and new enemies being cultivated in West Africa, namely most of them members of the Peace Security Council of the United Nations. And therefore, it creates enormous challenges for ECOWAS to even act. If there is no foreign power that is backing Niger, I don't think they will take the stand they are taking against ECOWAS as a community. Because if you look at the resources available, look at the strength of the army and ammunitions available, I don't think that Niger would take that kind of stand if they were not having some backing within the context of geopolitics. And therefore, I think that it is something that ECOWAS leadership needs to take further than just within the shores of West Africa and seriously engage some of these new friends and enemies. Because at the end of the day, what prices is ECOWAS going to pay, or member states of ECOWAS going to pay for these new friends that are being cultivated? And what will be the cost on the ECOWAS peace and security architecture? It's only time that will tell, but we know that it is not going to end well.
Thank you for your time this morning. Chukwuemeka is Executive Director of OneUP, and we've just been talking about the Niger situation and updates on that. And we know that Victoria Newland, the U.S. Acting Deputy Secretary of State, visited the place, spoke to leaders of the coup, trying to get them to release President Bazoum. That didn't happen. She was not even allowed to speak to President Bazoum. But in an interaction with the media, she did mention that it was quite a difficult and frank conversation she had, and that the leaders of the coup are bent on carrying out with their plan, which does not conform to Niger's constitution. So we'll be keeping our eyes keenly on what happens in Niger and keep you updated as well. Now, government is expected to engage the services of a contractor to expand some identified storm drains in the whole municipality of the Volta region. This is to deal with flooding. According to the Volta Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, Ivy Amewuga, an assessment report has been submitted to the appropriate agency, awaiting approval and execution. She was speaking to the media on the sidelines of the donation of some relief items to flood victims by the Rotary Club of Ho.
A July 8, 2023 flood left ravaging effects on Ho and surrounding communities in the whole municipality of the Volta region. People's investment, personal belongings and food items were swept away by the flood, recorded to be the biggest experienced within the last 2 decades. Some buildings in the affected areas were severely damaged. The National Disaster Management Organization was unable to perform its mandated duties of providing relief items to cushion victims in the interim. Ivy Ameuga is the Volta Regional NADMO Director.
We have appealed that disaster management is not, should I say, it's a collective effort. So we don't leave it to NADMO alone because the numbers are very huge. We are looking at about over 1,000 victims. We don't want to go with what we have and then it will start hearing that you have left Kojo out, you've left Mensa out.
This informed a decision by the Rotary Club of Ho to mobilize some items to support NADMO to provide for the victims. 75 bags of rice, 250 bottles of oil and 120 packs of soap were handed over to the organization for onward distribution to the victims.
We witnessed a flood in Ho, which we have never seen before. I have been in Ho for the past 10 years. I've never seen anything like that before. So when we saw that Rotary being a service organization with to help people, we decided to come together to see how best we can put this together. So we solicited for funds from Rotarians, non-Rotarians all over the district, and we gathered some money, and together we put together the items to give to the flood victims, and that's what we've just done this morning.
As the flood happened, some people, their food items and stuff got damaged. So sending this item to them will be of great importance to them, to help them to sustain them for some time as they get back to their normal situations. So these items are very much important to them.
However, the size of some main storm drains and culverts in Ho was identified as a contributing factor to the perennial floods. Technocrats and stakeholders suggested an expansion of the drains to prevent annual flooding. Ivy Ameuga said reports have been sent to the appropriate government agencies awaiting approval.
You know that for the expansion and whatever, you know, government have to release the money. So the paperwork needs to be done for such actions to continue. So we have tabled in the reports after the tour, and we are hoping that very soon we will see some action commencing on the affected roads and places.
So we heard about Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
This is News Desk with me, Bernice Abubeidu-Lansa. Limited resources for the health sector in low and middle income countries require the use of appropriate technologies and innovations to influence priority setting. This is also to guide coverage decisions in a bid to attain universal health coverage by 2030. Health technology assessment allows a critical assessment of health technologies as a basis for making evidence-based decisions in the health sector. The use of the health technology assessment in Ghana and Africa at large is low, and therefore there's a need for capacity building for efficient utilization of limited resources in the sector. 30 healthcare professionals are therefore benefiting from a health technology assessment as an HTA course by the KNUST Africa Higher Education Health Collaborative in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation.
Participants are health professionals, health managers, policymakers, civil servants and researchers working in the health sector at the primary healthcare level in Ghana. Professor Anthony Eduse of KNUST School of Public Health, who read the speech of the principal investigator of KNUST Africa Higher Education Health Collaborative, Professor Ellis Owusu-Dabo, is optimistic the 5-day workshop will maximize the gains in the health sector.
HTA, which is Health Technology Assessment, is a tool that is being increasingly employed to influence healthcare priority setting. In the era of rapid development and innovation in technology for healthcare, the need to prioritize for which technology to use to meet the competing needs of individuals is paramount. Through HTA, we can use acceptable methods to evaluate the medical, economic, social, ethical, and legal issues or consequences of any health technology. And the health technologies that we can have in mind are medical devices, pharmaceuticals or medicines, vaccines, procedures in healthcare practice, diagnostic tests, programs or systems, as well as public health interventions. And through this critical assessment, we can make evidence-based decisions, potentially contributing to appropriate and efficient use of technologies, thus achieving value for money in respect of investment in healthcare provision.
The course is under the aegis of the Health Employment Pillar of the Africa Higher Education Health Collaborative. The pillar lead, Dr. Kofi Akwahin-Mensah, revealed the course has been accredited by various health professional bodies for continuous professional development points.
Our council has given us 19 points for this course. We are also talking about Allied Health Professional Council, and Allied Health Professional Council has given us 20 points for this course. We are also talking about the Nursing and Midwifery Council. The NMC have also given us 20 points for this course. Then lastly, we are talking about Pharmacy Council.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Let's do some politics now. You can't disrespect me and expect me to join your campaign, quote unquote. These are the words of Deputy Railway Development Minister Kweku Asante Boateng to the camp of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He's expressed his dissatisfaction at how some members of the Vice President's camp, according to him, blatantly snapped him during a campaign visit to constituencies in the Asante Achim area. The Member of Parliament for Asante Achim South says he's hurt by the actions of members of the Bawumia camp who probably see him as an outlier. He's thus announced his loyalty to former Trades Minister Alan Tremate, describing him as a brother. Emmanuel Bright Kweku has more.
Rousing welcome by delegates and pro-Alan supporters as the former Trades Minister began his tour in the region, paying a courtesy call on the paramount chief of Ejoso, where he hails from. Nana Afrani Okese IV blessed the flag-bearer hopeful, throwing a challenge to his detractors over Mr. Chirmantin's victory in the upcoming party elections. I know it shall work. Even the detractors know it shall work. I'm solidly behind him in everything. The gods are behind him. You can bet over this. The team proceeded to constituencies in the Asante Achim area to solicit support, with some government officials throwing their weight behind the former minister. Deputy Railway Development Minister Kweku Asante Boateng announced his vehement support after he claimed to have been dejected by the Baumia camp. When Vice President Baumia came to Sankari, we decided to go welcome him and some members of his team. None of them greeted me when I extended a handshake. You can't disrespect me and expect me to join your campaign. I am hurt by their actions. Alan is my brother. I cannot denounce him. If he wins or not, I will support him. The group headed to the constituencies in the Kumeru area and made a final stop at Ejuso. Mr. Chirmantin touted his achievement to the delegate, indicating that he is the man to wield more votes from the Ashanti and Volta regions to aid a landslide win in the upcoming general elections.
Volta region, I don't think you'll be a NDC. Volta region. Now what NDC for so about Volta region?
The NDC has more voters in the Volta region. Vote for someone who can reduce their numbers there. Jerry Rawlings has been the favorite of the Voltarians, but they told me I am their new favorite after Rawlings died.
Anyone godfather. Jerry Rawlings only hold him. Volta for say, shall Rawlings require?
On the first day, the former minister visited 8 out of the 47 constituencies and is expected to complete his tour in the Ashanti region within 6 days. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
It's time now to bring you some business news updates, and when Darryl Kwao joins you, he'll be telling you about how MTN has committed 12 million cedis to developing digital skills amongst young females. Stay for that.
Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Now, as part of efforts to improve digital inclusion and gender inclusivity, communications firm MTN has committed 12 million cedis to the development of digital skills amongst young females. The initiative, which will be implemented through the Girls in ICT initiative, is being championed by the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. Here's more in this report.
The MTN Girls in ICT Open Day program hosted about 100 girls from the Bono and Ahafo regions to improve their exposure to emerging technologies through mentorship. The initiative, which is spearheaded by the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, saw female tech personalities encourage the girls to venture into the technology space while bridging the gender disparity gap. Speaking at the sensitization session, Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer at MTN, Adjoa Wiafe, said MTN is committed to supporting underprivileged segments in society to ensure gender equality.
For this program, we have committed about 12 million Ghana cedis over a period of 3 years. We committed it in 2021, and so we are supporting the ministry with that. Aside that, we have our foundation that is also focused on ensuring and training and in digital skills. So our foundation is focused on the youth, with girls and those who are underprivileged being the focus. The reason why we are focusing on girls is the disparity that we have in the in ICT when it comes to digital skills. So we are focusing on underprivileged or underserved segments of our society now, so to bring them up and ensure some gender parity when it comes to ICT skills. So that's why we are focusing on girls.
Some of the participants spoke to Joy Business.
At first, I wanted to become a geologist, but by attending this program, I think I have to change my mind, and forcefully in my mind, in my own self, I have to change my mind to become a computer engineer, because this program has helped me a lot to know everything I know. I mean, some things, though I'm not full, so some things about ICT, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So, Girls in ICT program, thank you for coming on to our aid.
Last year, they organized some program called Girls in ICT, which is a coding club, and it's helped me to do animations using computer or laptop, and it will help the youth to become active using ICT tools.
MTN pledged to set up a $25 million ICT hub, which will boost disciplines in the tech space and boost Ghana's digitalization drive. The theme for the program is Digital Skills for Life.
Now, Managing Director of Adansi Travels, Gideon Asare, has reiterated the need to shore up domestic tourism investments in the country, indicating it's got prospects in transforming livelihoods through employment and wealth creation. At a 10th anniversary dinner, he said the travel and tour company will continue to embark on various initiatives to boost tourism in Ghana.
We working on one other subsidiary called Sea Ghana, and it's a project that we started already. And what we are doing to help is that we want to make travel within Ghana more affordable. A lot of people complain about the cost when they have to travel in Ghana. So we've started to make sure that we have what we call free departures. So a time will come that if you want to go to Cape Coast on a weekend, we don't need to struggle. You just go to the mall, and then there's a departure, a bus leaving every Friday, for instance, or every Saturday there's a Accra City tour. So maybe starting from Accra. So when you are not even you are feeling bored, you can just go to the mall, join the bus, pay for it, and then go. So we are working on that, and that is one of the things that will change the domestic travels. And we also partner a few organizations to come out with some festivals. So in December, for instance, we are partnering with Taste of Africa to do a festival in the northern region called the Oneness Cultural Festival.
And that's it for this segment. The news continues after the break.
Thank you for staying on News Desk. And before we go, 6 police officers sustained injuries following a clash with commercial tricycle riders, that's Pragya riders, at the premises of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, KMA. The riders pelted stones, destroying the windscreen of 2 cars owned by KMA staff. A military team had to intervene to disperse the crowd and stop the rioting. Nana Boache Yadom has more in the following report.
The aggrieved tricycle riders besieged the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly in an attempt to retrieve their seized tricycles. Their action was fiercely resisted by the police. This angered the riders, resulting in a clash with the police. 6 of the officers sustained injuries and are currently receiving treatment at the KMA clinic. The assembly called in military intervention, who managed to disperse the mob and arrested 12 tricycle riders. Communications Director for KMA, Efia Konedu, says the commercial tricycle riders earlier blocked the Swami stretch leading to the Central Business District.
They came to forcibly take the tricycles from the yard. And that is where the resistance happened, because that is not how it is done. And so if we allow you to forcibly take something off, then what is our essence? It was because the people misbehave. And so you could have asked why it is here. And then we also do not know you. So what is the grounds, or how sure are we that the tricycle is for you, Mr. A or Mr. B? When the police saw them up, they also came in to let them know that they cannot take the items from them. So that is when they started beating up. I think they ganged up against some of the police officers, so they beat them up. So if you go to the hospital, you see various injuries that they have sustained. So we realized that the situation was getting out of hand. One, they were not ready to comply with any law. They were ready to hurt anybody that came their way. And they just didn't allow law or order to work. So that's how we have to call in the military. And then they came in, I think there were about 7 or so. They came in to disperse the crowd, and they have left, as you can see.
The KMA says it remains resolute in restricting the operation of commercial tricycles in the city centre.
As a city, we will have to. We are continuing it for 1 week, and then it will continue again depending on how the state of affairs at the end of the week. But as we speak, it's a week-long exercise, and we're going to continue the exercise. We are working with the police and the military. So if they are coming here lawfully, like you have entered, nobody's going to do anything to them. But if they are going to come to us in the manner that they came this afternoon, we also have to meet them and make sure that the law works to the latter.
Reporting for Joe News, Nana Boache Dankwa Kumasi.
And that'll be all for this edition of News Desk with me, Bernice Abubeidulansa. I really appreciate your company. Do log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We are Joy News on TV. We post news updates there and links to all our stories. But do stay with us here also on the Joy News channel. We are your most credible news source. Take care. We are back at 12 with more news updates for you.